Hello, everybody, and welcome to your Rouxbe live event. My name is Eric Wynkoop, and I'm the Director of Culinary Instruction here at Rouxbe, and I'm also one of your chef instructors, along with other members on our team. And today I want to specifically welcome you to my office hours, and this is your chance to ask cooking or food related questions, and my chance to do my best to respond to those. And we've got a number of questions that you'll see on your screen already pre-loaded or pre-populated. If you are interested in participating more directly today, feel free to enter a question or a comment in the box, the dialog box in the upper right-hand corner that says Add Question Here. And then the other thing I'd like to mention is if you take a look at the questions that are already populated, in each questions block, you'll see a heart-shaped icon in the upper right-hand corner. And if you really like a particular question and would like it addressed sooner than later, you can go ahead and click on that heart and it'll bump up that question in priority. Okay? So with those two things in mind, let's go ahead and jump into today's program. And we've got the first question from Cheryl that says, what is the best tasting tofu? Okay, so on one hand, Cheryl, tofu is universally bland in its traditional plain form. Tofu does come in a number of different styles, which reflect water content, the smoothness of the texture, and the firmness of the product. And as texture changes, it does to some extent affect what we taste on the palate. But in terms of the addition of flavors, I'm going to answer that part in a couple of ways. At the store, uh, at least in my neck of the woods here in the northwest of the United States, there are some examples of tofu that are made with the addition of flavorful ingredients such as lemongrass. But if we're going to stay focused on traditional plain tofu, then really it's up to you, the cook, to flavor the tofu in a way that's going to be satisfying to you. And so this is where practice comes into play, and this is where the Rouxbe approach. In our courses, we emphasize the acquisition of knowledge and skills to empower you to take food down different paths in directions that you really enjoy, where you can feature regional flavors from around the world, or you can focus on ingredients that you really enjoy yourself. So in this way, you're going to produce the foods, in this case, tofu, that is going to taste the best. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some context, and then you can work from that. Thank you. And the next question, hello, Havelock. See, I've been pondering this recently. When is it appropriate to engage the Rouxbe appeal button that comes with every graded assignment? What legitimate reasons are there beyond a do-over? So the appeal button or appeal function is provided so that a student can address a concern or an issue that it could be a technical issue. It could be a comprehension issue. For example, if the student feels a quiz question was not worded in a crystal clear manner, then that led to getting that answer incorrect. Or even if it was answered correctly, maybe the student wants to provide some helpful feedback to us by highlighting a question that, let's say, is not so clear in the way it's been written. So that's an example of that. Um, Students don't always request to do something over. In the case of an assignment, perhaps they want to address, um, again, maybe some sort of a miscommunication that resulted in some points being deducted. On occasion, an instructor may miss something in a photo, especially if it wasn't highlighted also in the description, which led to a point deduction. And then a student might want to address that and say, hey, actually, it's there. It's present if you look in the upper right-hand corner. Would you consider uh, reevaluating this and maybe adding a point back that was deducted. So that's sort of a hypothetical situation comes up occasionally. Excuse me. And then, yeah, as I mentioned in the first example, around a quiz question, a student might ask for consideration of a single question, so a single point, rather than an entire do-over of the quiz. Okay, um, so those are a couple of instances that come up occasionally. We do ask, in the course, and I'll repeat this right now, that students prepare to the best of their ability before submitting an assignment or a quiz. Read through in the case of an assignment, the framework of the assignment, understand what is being asked of you before you submit your work. And if you happen to um, experience the deduction of a point or two, let's say, and of course, the instructor is going to provide the student feedback. We do that with every point that's deducted. Please take that information in as a great learning opportunity. And we ask that you not contest a point, for example, just because you want 100%. Our focus is not on your score, it's on your learning. And we hope that you also are focused not on the numerical score so much as the learning that takes place each day as you engage with us here at Rouxbe. Okay, that's going to be the most important thing in the long run, right? In terms of your confidence in the kitchen and the joy of cooking that you experience. Thank you. And the next question, what is the best gluten-free flours, oil-free substitutes to use in making a roux for gravy and soup? So in terms of a gluten-free flour, let's see. Well, so you're talking about thickening a gravy or a soup, and if you want an oil-free substitute, then by definition, it's not going to be a roux. A roux is fat-based. It's a combination of fat and flour that does its job. If we remove the fat component, we're left only with the starch component, and that we're going to call a slurry. Okay, and slurries can be made with a number of different flours or powdered starchy ingredients. And if you're thinking about a gluten-free flour, my first recommendation is to consider a pre-formulated product that's available at the grocery store. For example, Bob's Red Mill. Among their line of products, they have gluten-free flour blends available for different applications. So, do consider a ready-made product. But otherwise, if it's a slurry that you want to make just to tighten up a gravy or a soup, you might consider arrowroot or cornstarch as a couple of options. You can bring that together with water or a water-based liquid, for example, a juice, a fruit juice, if that's appropriate, and that will thicken your gravy or soup. Okay, give that a try. Thank you. And the next question, is there a workaround for a pasta machine? A rolling pin or roller along with kneading, perhaps? I won't make pasta often and don't need another infrequently used kitchen tool. Is a pasta machine essential to the desired outcome? A great question and very good, I think, thought here in terms of setting up a kitchen, and that is the avoidance of another infrequently used kitchen tool. The most efficient kitchens are going to have tools that are multi-tools, but of course there are going to be specialty ingredients that you might produce that do call for a particular machine of some sort or some sort of technology. But in the case of pasta, you can certainly hand roll it. If we go back in time, um, before the advent of the pasta machine, folks would have been hand rolling their dough. And it's going to take a little bit of extra time and effort on your part. It might even take some extra practice in terms of mixing the dough so you get the hydration at a point where it is reasonably easy for you to stretch out that dough. Okay, but absolutely, yeah, with practice, there are folks that will do this by hand. It is common that if you hand roll pasta, that the result may be a little bit thicker than what the machine would produce. So do keep that in mind in terms of the style of pasta that might result. The mouthfeel will be a little bit different, but certainly the results will be as delicious as you make it. Thank you. And the next question, I am a picky vegetarian and a 55-year-old woman that struggles with protein intake and weight stability. Can you share any suggestions for high protein recipes? Um, uh, I don't have any specific ideas for recipes per se. I will generally say that, first of all of our foods that we eat are going to contain amino acids, which are the building blocks that our body uses to synthesize protein during the digestive process. And certainly some things are some ingredients that is are uh, they have a higher concentration, I'll say, of amino acids that we need to get from food. And if you look at the category of legumes broadly and nuts as well, those are a couple of examples of a broad variety of ingredients that tend to have some higher amounts of these essential amino acids. Um, but in terms of recipes, if you want to reach out to us at support@rouxbe.com, I'm happy to forward your question to um, Chef Shar on our team here, who I think might have some ideas to share with you as well. But I hope that overview makes sense. It might help guide you to select recipes that you might already be familiar with, whether it's on the Rouxbe website or in cookbooks or elsewhere. Okay, thank you. And next up, Linda says, why is my seitan rubbery and chewy? Too much liquid in the dough or not enough? Kneading too long or not long enough? Steaming too long or not enough? Any guidance would be appreciated. Um, More liquid will make a more tender dough. Okay, so you consider looking at the hydration to begin with, and if you can, perhaps increase that, that's going to give you, generally speaking, a more tender finished product. Do keep in mind that as hydration increases, the dough becomes a little more difficult to handle. Um, in which case you can consider using a bench scraper. For example, a plastic pliable bench scraper can be very handy to move around a very highly hydrated dough. Um, and in terms of seitan is characterized by gluten, and so it will have a lot of structure from the gluten. Structure equals some degree of chewiness. Now, and more kneading will develop the gluten to a greater extent, okay, to a certain point. Um, so you can try kneading less, which should yield a uh, somewhat more tender finished product. Okay, but again, this particular product we call seitan is characterized by the gluten. So it is going to be a little bit firm, chewy, toothsome. Some people characterize it as a little bit rubbery. Okay, and let's see. So in terms of steaming, one thing steaming does is it imparts some liquid, at least on the outer surfaces. It depends on how long the steaming takes place. But again, liquid has a tendency to tenderize an item. But give this a try and see what kind of a result that you like. Okay, based upon a longer steam, maybe some more liquid, some less kneading, and take notes as you go. I always recommend that cooks, when they're making a change or testing a recipe, these are the same things, right? If you're making a change, you are testing a recipe, to take notes. It's certainly the best practice that I stick to, each week as I tinker in the kitchen. Okay, thank you. And let's see, next up from Amy. When would you use the flaky nutritional yeast versus the powdered nutritional yeast? This could just simply be a textural question. They're certainly interchangeable in most instances. And, if you're making a dough, for example, and you want to have the nutritional yeast more smoothly incorporated into the dough, then you might choose a more finely ground product. Okay, but in terms of the choice, it's really going to be at the end of the day your personal preference, because the application of these two products is they overlap a lot. Okay, you can really use them in either product in a given application. So try them out and see what you like best. Okay, that's going to create a more informed cook in you. Thank you. All right. Next question from Cynthia. Are there substitutes for recipes containing gluten, casein, or animal products? The quick answer is yes. Examples that come to mind right now of recipes that contain gluten, casein, or milk protein, right, or other animal products, can be changed, right? We're talking about bringing in non-gluten flour, or bringing in plant-based products in place of the animal products, and there's you can certainly make changes to any recipe. Do keep in mind that as you make a substitute, the finished product is going to be different from the original, and it's going to be up to you to find a balance that you like. Okay, and this is where I like to talk about the psychology of eating, and that is to say that this is my perspective anyway. That very often when a person encounters a change to a favorite food, there's some repulsion, and they contest what they see, and they don't like it. It's because they're focusing on what's different. They're focusing on what was taken away from that product, rather than focusing on what is present and what can be enjoyed in the new product. And I think about these challenges as being 90% mental. And if you can get over these hurdles, which are within each of us, um, we can learn to like new food. Now, I reserve this 10% for folks that have an intolerance of some sort and, have, let's say, a physical reaction to some sort of a food change. But for most people, most of the time, it's going to be psychological. And so as you make these changes, pulling out gluten and animal products, keep in mind that it becomes doubly important, I think, that the cook acquire a deeper and broader set of skills and the knowledge to support cooking, in a way that is going to be new and challenging in order to create some delicious results. Okay, thank you. And next up, looks like another one from Cynthia who says, we don't eat any processed ingredients such as flour or sugar and come across a task in the FOK course involving them. Do we skip it and move forward? If you come across a practice assignment, with practice recipes, you can handle that in any way that you would like. You're welcome to skip it. You're welcome to make it for the practice and give it away to other family members or friends. When it comes to instructor graded assignments, if you are in it for the score, that interests a lot of us, um, and I guess and the of course the accompanying instructor feedback for that particular assignment, then we need to find a way for you to work through that, if at all possible. Now, there are certainly some instances when a student opts not to make a dish for an assignment, in which case they will earn a 0 for the assignment. And that's another option as well. And so long as the student is comfortable, with that, then, we have a way forward. But the best scenario here is once you bump up against a specific question, a specific task, and a specific assignment, reach out to us at support@rouxbe.com so we can have a personalized, individual conversation. Okay, so in other words, this is not the time to use the Q&A function on the task at the bottom of the task page, but rather reach out to us directly for a more private conversation for your individual concern. Thank you. And the next question says, I made a 4-cheese sauce and it was awful. I got a lot of lumps. Is that normal? I was thinking that as cheese are solids, it may be. I melted the 4 cheeses, added milk, and then the roux. Ingrid, this might be a scenario where you reach out to us at support@rouxbe.com and maybe provide a link to the recipe you're trying to replicate and provide some more context, because answering the full question here might be a challenge for me. I will say that, is it normal for a cheese sauce to be awful and with lumps? Answer is no, but it can also depend upon the cheeses that you were using and, of course, just how you went about doing that. So again, do reach out to us with all the details, the types of cheeses you're using and what it is that you're trying to make, and we'll have a conversation. Thank you. All righty, next up, question from Margaret, who says, I have questions that are related more to using the course. For example, where to find my bookmarks. Is it okay to ask non-culinary questions here? For technical questions, it's going to be best if you reach out to support@rouxbe.com. The office hours are really best used to focus on food and cooking. Thank you. Hello, Larry. I often cook a cup of quinoa to have on hand for salads, etc. Like rice, should I spread this out and cool quickly prior to refrigerating? It's such a small amount to work with. Thanks as always. So, a cup of uncooked quinoa translates to, close to 3 times that. That's the general calculation for grains and beans. In which case we've got that much grain or so. Um, I would certainly spread it out just a little bit, on a sheet pan, and let it sit out for several, for let's say 20, 30 minutes or so, just to play it on the safe side. I think, if you were to bundle up, 3 cups of grain, that it could be a fairly dense package that you're putting into the refrigerator. And just depending on the situation, it could take a little while to cool down all the way to the center of the container. But it also depends on the shape of the container. Many containers are short, with a wide footprint, in which case, just, by its design, the food will end up being spread out and cool a little bit quicker. Another thing to consider is as you put, food into a container, you can always leave the lid off in the refrigerator for an hour or two to allow it to cool down before you place the lid on it. Okay, so that's another option. But you're right, it is a pretty small quantity. There's not much concern, I would say, really, in most situations in terms of a problem, with a foodborne illness. Okay, but it's always a good practice to try to hasten that process along, even if it means some other means, such as leaving the lid off of the container. I hope this is helpful, and give these different ways a try and see what works best for you. Thank you. We have another question from Cheryl who says, can we use our electric maids for chopping? And I'm going to interpret this as electric appliances, such as a food processor or something similar that could chop vegetables, let's say. And let me answer this by saying that, first of all, it's going to be up to you at the end of the day. As you move through our course, however, I do ask that you use your chef's knife so that you can start to build the skill around knife handling. Knife handling skills, some people would argue, are the most important skills to acquire in the kitchen because so much prep work requiring a knife or slicing, dicing, chopping precedes cooking. And if you can get that done in an efficient manner, it really is confidence boosting. It saves time. It's safe, in terms of, injury to self. And it gives you a lot of versatility. For example, if you were to travel someplace or to a different kitchen and help out with food prep, you can easily grab a knife in the case that an electric maid was not present. But beyond the course, if one prefers to use an electric appliance, that is totally up to that individual. Thank you. And the next question, this is from Lonnie, who says, is there something I can replace chickpeas and tofu with in the recipes that provide the same benefits but not the texture? So, wow, this is a very vague question, Lonnie, and I'm going to ask you to reach out to us at support@rouxbe.com and provide some more details, some more context, maybe explain a bit about the texture that you're trying to avoid versus what you're trying to achieve, and maybe provide an example of a dish or a recipe that you're working with, and that'll provide great context for us to help you out. Okay, thank you. And we have another question from Cheryl who says, can we have homemade sorbet that we make ourselves with the FOK diet? Sure. Here at Ruby, our emphasis is on helping you become a more efficient, knowledgeable cook to help you find the joy in cooking. And as we team up with the Forks Over Knives team and present their content to you, the FOK team wants to emphasize whole food cookery. And the FOK course, also has an emphasis on low or no added sugar and salt and oil. Now, how you engage with that aspect of the course is going to be up to you. We do have students that have a health concern that they want to immediately address by cutting out added salt, sugar, and oil. And we have many students that simply want to decrease those ingredients but not eliminate them. And we have some students that want to focus on becoming a better cook, and they're not concerned about the salt, sugar, and oil in their food. And so we have a broad spectrum of students and scenarios with which we work. And as far as creating sorbet at home and eating that, that's totally going to be up to the individual. Okay, so you get to make the choice. Flip a coin if that's easier. Have a discussion with somebody else nearby, and then come up with an answer that's going to be best for you. Thank you. And Michaela says, hello. And let's see. Tomorrow I will cook the black bean quesadilla, which is task 170. I'm a little confused because the recipe asks for a quarter cup of beer. Could I use water? Sure. I don't have that recipe in front of me, but in a quantity as small as 1/4 of a cup, it must be provided, as a form of liquid as well as flavoring. And in that small of a quantity, the beer flavoring is going to be pretty small. So I think it's going to be very easy for you to use water as a substitute. Thank you. And let's see, Svetlana says, I want to make the dough for dumplings. What should I use to make it more flexible? Is psyllium accepted by FOK? So the first thing is going to be more hydration. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, when working with dough, usually some practice is required in order to find or to understand the characteristics of the dough and how it acts with more or less liquid. And more liquid is going to provide a more tender product. Now, in terms of psyllium, is it accepted by FOK? It's again, it's going to be up to the individual. There's nothing necessarily wrong with using psyllium. It's just going to be up to the individual cook to decide if that's going to be appropriate for your diet. Okay, but give that a try and do some experimenting. Take notes, in terms of the measurement changes, the quantity changes that you make, and you'll be on your way to a better finished product. Thank you. Janice asks, will we learn to plan meals in the ultimate course? So the ultimate course is going to be the Forks Over Knives ultimate course. And the quick answer is yes, but let me contextualize this, okay? And that is to say that at Ruby, we emphasize learning how to cook. So there's skill development and there's knowledge acquisition, okay? And that's going to form the foundation of the meals that you produce. Beyond that, okay, we have a lot of recipes that we provide as practice and as reference and as inspiration. And once you put together your foundation of cooking skills and knowledge, okay, with some outside inspiration via Ruby recipes, for example, you will be able to create your own meal plan, and you'll be able to manipulate recipes in a way that is most meaningful for you and your family. Okay, and that's what's different about Ruby when we think about the many other websites out there that provide meal plans, right? They're providing a set of recipes for you to choose from for breakfast or for lunch or for dinner. They might provide an outline of, Monday through Sunday night, this is what you ought to make. Um, but that doesn't teach you how to cook. That doesn't empower you to be in control of the recipes. Instead, the recipes are in control of you. And we want to encourage you to break free of that and make what you want to make, change recipes in the way that you want to change them so that you and your audience will find the most enjoyment in the food that you make. Okay? And so, again, the combination of skills and knowledge will get you to your own set of recipes for your meal plan. Thank you. All right, next up from Lori. Thanks for the feedback. Lori says, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm wondering if you have any hints on how to improve dice technique and what to look for after the dice is complete. Okay, so this is a knife skills question. Let me answer this with a couple of thoughts that come to mind. First is that when it comes to our assignments, the instructor and graded assignments, those are the most technical and, in my opinion, the most challenging assignments because they're so precise. The definition of a small dice, for example, is pretty exact. It's a 1/4 inch cube. And so if you present to us something that's not a 1/4 inch cube, then it doesn't fit the definition and you're probably not going to earn full points. Okay. Now, having said that, for your daily cooking at home, you don't require perfect dice, whether it's a small, medium, large, or brunoise or something else. Okay. What you're after is confidence on the knife to produce cuts of some different sizes so they'll be appropriate for different dishes that you're making. Okay. And you're going to get there through practice. That's the only way to get there. All right. Now, in terms of improving your cuts, keep in mind that as part of the definition of the dice, the sides need to be at 90 degrees, not less and not more, which means if this is your cutting board, this is the angle of your knife. And so as you get set up, look down on your cutting board, down over your knife, and then align it, and then make the cut. And then take a look and see if you have a 90-degree cut or if it's less or more, and then make an adjustment as necessary as you continue to practice. Okay? And the other thing to keep in mind is that once you uh, get to a point of accuracy that's satisfying for you, start to add speed to your work. Now, we emphasize accuracy first because as you add speed to your knife work, your accuracy will drop. Okay, as speed increases, accuracy decreases. That's just the way it works. So you will get to find a balance in there that works for you so that you're not spending all afternoon cutting carrots for a couple of dishes for dinner tonight. Okay, and there's a process. I mean, the feedback is immediate, right? So once you make a slice, look at it, and it's either 90 degrees or it's not, and you can make adjustments based upon the results that you see. Okay, but again, don't get overly caught up in terms of your daily cooking on this sort of micro accuracy. Just find a balance after practicing for a while between your accuracy and your speed in order to enjoy overall efficiency in the kitchen. Thank you. And next question. When we do an assignment, can we add more things to the meal while serving? Like more stews and Ethiopian cooking in the international assignment, even though the recipe meal shows one dish. Let's see. So there, I'm not sure exactly the scenario, but we have a couple of them. So let me talk through these. Um, for an instructor graded assignment, if the assignment asks you to focus on one preparation, then please feature just that preparation. We want to see a close-up photo where you fill up the viewfinder, okay, with the food so we can see the details of your good work, emphasizing what is asked for in that assignment. That's very important. You might have a beautiful photo, but if it doesn't show the angle or the aspect that we need to see in order to grade a particular technical aspect of the learning outcomes, then we can't grade you effectively. Okay, so please keep that in mind. There are some other scenarios where an assignment might say, show your dish together with other things that you made for the meal, right? In which case, yes, you can show that dish along with those other things that you prepared to complement that dish for the complete meal. Okay, so really just stick to the context of the assignment. If you have other specific questions like this, to clarify, feel free to reach out at support@rouxbe.com. Thank you. All right, next up from Sarah. What are the specific steps for someone who wants to start a cooking business that would include main dishes, a salad, healthy and balanced for the community? Okay, so my approach, this is my preference, is to start with a business plan. And I always direct my students to score.org, where you'll find some information that'll talk you through and walk you through the different aspects of a business plan. Also, if you happen to live in an area where there is a SCORE office, reach out to those folks. They provide free guidance for entrepreneurial folks that want to start a cooking business. Okay, I mean, otherwise, what you will need to do is understand your audience. Who is it that you will be cooking for, and what are their interests? What is their demand in terms of type of food, the formality of the food, for example, and start to compile menus that will fulfill that scenario, across main dishes and salads, and start to test those recipes. You'll need to cost out the recipes. We call it costing the recipe. And that is to calculate the cost of every single ingredient that goes into the recipe that you produce. And let's say, for example, that the recipe that you're working with makes 10 portions. Once you add up the total cost of that recipe, you divide by 10 to calculate the individual portion cost. And then from that point, you can calculate the menu price that you will show the customer. Okay. And so those are a few of the details that will be within your business plan. The business plan itself is much broader, addressing demographics and marketing and other factors that can hopefully lead to the success of your business idea. All right, thank you. And thank you, Patrick, who has just posted the score.org website here. And the next question is from Christy, who says, I have small hands and I'm having a hard time keeping my knuckles on the knife, getting the knuckles to hit the knife so that I can get the same cut so that everything looks uniform. I have an 8-inch knife. Can that be the issue? Okay, so let's see here. So yeah, on one hand, with practice, a lot of cooks with small hands can get used to using an 8-inch chef's knife. Okay, there's probably no need to go any bigger than that. Now, optionally, you could certainly use a smaller chef's knife. There are 7-inch chef's knives and 6-inch chef's knives, and those can work quite well. The disadvantage of a smaller blade is that you will be cutting a smaller amount of product at a time, so prep could take a little bit longer. Okay, but that's just something to work with if you decide to use a smaller knife. And so in terms of keeping your knuckles on the knife, I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that, but when we grab a knife, we tend to wrap these first three fingers or these three fingers around the handle as we kind of choke up on the handle and pinch the blade with the thumb of the index finger. We right up on the knife, and that provides good power, good leverage, through each cut. And try that regardless of the knife, and see what that feels like. But also go down to the store and see if you can, try on a smaller blade, maybe a 7-inch chef's knife, and see how that feels for you. Okay, and also keep in mind that some knives will have a smaller or thicker handle. And so you can take a look at some of these different design features that are offered by different brands. And you'll find your answer, I'm sure, within those options. Thank you. All right, another question from Ingrid. I made some croquettes in the deep fryer, but they opened during the frying at 375, and then contents got in the oil. I covered with egg, flour, and breadcrumbs as recommended. Any thoughts? So a couple of things. I just want to make sure that your sequence of the breading procedure was correct, and that is that flour comes first, followed by eggs, and then the breadcrumbs, okay? And that'll allow the best adhesion through each step. And let's see here. The other one is sometimes if there's a lot of moisture content, very high moisture content in the mixture, it can create a lot of steam that will break open the breading layer that you've created. Also, if the oil is too cool, 375 sounds fine, but if it is cool, sometimes you can get some adverse results as well. Consider using a thermometer, an oil thermometer, just to double check the temperature, okay, as you're moving forward, and see how that works. These couple three things that I mentioned. Thank you. And another one from Ingrid, who says, I'm actually in a region where sambal oelek is not available. The Thai chili sauce recommended in their stir-fry course. Any suggested substitutes, Chinese or Korean, etc.? Sambal it's a general chili paste. It's got some coarseness to it, at least the products that I use. So, feel free to find something in your area that resembles a chili sauce. And uh, you can always make your own as well. Look at the ingredients of sambal, which will have a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, along with chilies. Um, and go forth. But certainly take a look at what is in your area, and you're bound to find some sort of a substitute that's pretty close. In other words, a chili sauce that'll be satisfying for you. Okay. And then Mary says, I froze my tofu to improve the texture, then marinated it and cooked it. Can I refreeze the tofu since it has been cooked? Sure. Yeah, give it a try and see how you like the results. Generally, when you cook something that is relatively high in water content, it'll shift the texture a little bit. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just a change in the texture. So you'll need to see how you like those results. Thank you. And then the last question of the day from Kristen says, when we are finished with the Plant-Based Pro course, will we have access to see all the recipes, even those inside the assignments? Do we just lose the ability to send in the assignments? So some things are frozen, the assignments as well as quizzes, and I think the Q&A function is also frozen. But you'll be able to look at the assignment pages, the task pages, as you click through the course, and so you should be able to see the recipe as well, the recipes as well. Okay, but if you want to double check, please reach out at support@rouxbe.com, and then that'll give a chance for me or one of my colleagues to just double check that function. Okay, once the course is completed and the student graduates. All right. Thank you very much for your question today, Kristen, and thanks to everyone else that participated, and thanks to those that were in the audience as well. I'll be back and look forward to seeing you at the next office hours. And until then, happy cooking.